All right. I'll count us down in 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Jeff Rick here, come to you for another episode of Work 20XX, and we're going across the pond to Stockholm today for our next guest. That's the beauty. One of the great things that came out of COVID is everyone is pretty used to doing these types of calls, and it's not that strange to have calls with people all over the world. So thankfully, through the magic of the internet, all the way from Stockholm, he's Henrik Jarleskog, the head of future work at Sodexo. Henrik, great to see you.
Great to see you, Jeff, and I'm happy to be here. And we are in this new type of global work, right?
Right. And we, our paths have crossed many, many times online. So it's great to finally get to, meet in person, almost in person, virtual in person, whatever we describe this, but it certainly feels good.
Yeah, I think, you are, and this podcast is one of the OGs in this area, the future of work. It was one of the first podcasts I really started listening to in the beginning, when the pandemic and everything hit. And I always used to have your sessions in my headphones walking to work suddenly, because I used to take the train, but many memories of past sessions with you, Jeff, and listening to it on my way to work walking.
That's great. Well, thank you. Yeah, thankfully Darren Murph was gracious enough to accept my invitation for episode number 1. So I knew if I could get Darren that the seas would part for me and everyone else would be okay. That's legitimate. So Sodexo, big giant company. Not everybody knows about it, certainly here in the States. So give a quick overview of Sodexo, because I think it's a big behemoth that maybe not everyone is aware of.
I think you are absolutely right, Jeff. We are, I think we are still the 18th largest company in the world when you look at the amount of employees. We exist in pretty much every country in the world where, we do a lot of food business, and we also do facilities management, or we do kind of the full workplace spectrum. We do it for corporates, and we do it for the likes of hospitals, schools, offshore boats. We ran the Olympics Games this summer, and Roland Garros, and in the NFL stadiums, where we also take care of a lot of services and food and beverage.
Yeah. So I'm going to put a number on it because you're very gracious. It's over 400,000 employees. I mean, that is a lot of people, and over 20 billion euros or revenue. It's north of that in revenue. So that is a significant company.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's a really big, it's a behemoth, as you say, and it's a B2B one. And therefore, most people haven't heard of the company, because we don't make a big fuss around who we are, to people. But B2B, we're really big.
So you've had this position, head of future work, for a little while, and I've heard, getting ready for this, you tell a story about a sit down with the CEO, and I wonder if you could share this, because for such a company that's been around a long time, a very big specialty in food and facility services and tangential to that, to have a person focused on the future of work. Talk about that conversation, because I think it shows some really progressive thinking in the minds of the boss.
Yeah, I really have a vivid memory of sitting down with the CEO just when the pandemic had hit, right? Because we are a B2B company, and we did do a lot of, and still do, of course, transactional business. So, and that business builds on people being in the office, serving them with either food or receptionist services, or taking care of the buildings, cleaning the offices or the trains or the airplanes, everything halted a bit when people wasn't in the offices anymore. So I sat down with the CEO at the time, and at the time I was heading up strategy for Europe, where he said, Henrik, our industry, or kind of the workplace industry, will never become what it was before the pandemic again. It will change, it will irreversibly change, but we don't know how. So I want you to take the lead of understanding that. I want you to analyze, do surveys, write white papers, educate yourself, us, and the market. Because I believe, he said, if you own the problem statement, you can also become a market maker. And this was 5 years ago. So I got that task of really figuring out the future work 5 years ago, but as a part-time or a double hat with my strategy job at the time.
Yeah, that's pretty progressive because, as you know, my one and only all-time favorite business book, Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen, I don't even know how old it is now. It's probably, I don't know, 40 years old, 30 years old. The whole idea that, you know, mature businesses with smart executives making sound business decisions based on marginal improvements that their customers are asking for will always miss this continuous change because their customers aren't asking for it. They're asking for better, faster, smarter of the things you're already selling them. So to take a minute and to pluck somebody out and say, really start to think about how this is going to change our world forever and own the problem statement, that's pretty progressive.
It is, and I just loved it because this is exactly how to motivate somebody like me, because I've been doing these kind of heavy lifts a few times before, doing the new things or trying to infuse new type of innovations in markets. Same time at my time at Ernst & Young, where we introduced vested partnerships instead of transactional outsourcing, kind of a win-win model. That was the same way of looking at a market. How can we really change it forever? And it's really, I would say, energizing to figure out how to change a full industry to make it better,
right?
To build back better for everyone who works. I think that's something that motivates at least me.
Yeah, that's great. So it seems like one of the big themes in terms of the change, well, we know that it is, right? And the change in the role of what the office is and what the role of facilities has changed dramatically. And in terms of the facilities people and what you measure, it's not so much about SG&A anymore. Nobody wants to be a cost center. It has to be in support of the people doing the main business. So it feels like the focus has really shifted from attendance, which is stupid in the first place, to experience, right? And how you deliver that experience. And coming from a food background, I think that's a pretty unique position to come from. One of my favorite shows on the internet is Hot Ones with Sean Evans. And one of the magic formulas of that show is breaking bread over shared pain. When you break bread with somebody, you create an intimacy and you create a type of relationship that, you know, kind of goes back deep into our roots of the power of hospitality and community. So you guys are in a pretty unique place, starting from food and food as a base, and what that means to people to start to help build out some of these experience capabilities in these facilities.
Absolutely. And, you know, there are a few really large companies that we compete with. All of them come from different angles. You have the real estate companies who, you know, comes from the transactional business of selling and buying real estate. You have a few of them coming from the cleaning business, a couple of them coming from the food business or the safety and security business. But over time, they have kind of widened the portfolio. At least over the last 21 years, I've been in this industry or the workplace industry. It has evolved over time. It has been growing, I would say, widening the scope. Like from 3 or 4 services, you kind of started with maybe cleaning, reception services, and lighter building maintenance. Then you're building up more and more services, outdoor maintenance, grounds and landscaping, concierge services. And now lately, you know, it's everything is just around experiences, as you say. How can we create offices and workplaces to places where people actually want to go, where it's meaningful to travel in, not being forced to do it. So I think absolutely fascinating. And as you say, for us, we are more relevant than ever because breaking bread is number one, right?
Right.
On the list of why people want to meet with their peers. They get into the office, sit down, have a Swedish fika, share a little piece of bread, have some coffee. That's really what brings a relationship to a stronger and better level.
Yeah, it's as our mutual friend Brian Elliott loves to say, right? Distribute doesn't mean never together, and it's really about intentional, which was my great word that Darren, you know, turned me on 2 years ago. And so, you know, I was just at the Atlassian show, and they talk about their facilities and really trying to make them attractive places for people to come, and also to think about things that you can't do at home or you can't necessarily do at a remote location that the main office or an office is really, really suited for. And the framework that that I found coming out of COVID that helps people think about it is offsites. Everybody knows what an offsite is, right? What makes an offsite work? An offsite is intentional. You've got objectives. Everybody's focused. Who's there for a day or 2 days on whatever the problem is. You have a variety of different activities over the course of your offsite. You do some work, but you do some fun and you break some bread. And then you leave it and you have objectives and you have goals and you've accomplished stuff. So I always tell people on-site is the new off-site. What are the things that you can do to your on-site to make it appealing for people to come in and do that type of work? Really intense, high value, great delivery, community. And it really begs for almost this hospitality-like point of view, because you do offsites often at really nice resorts or really nice places. Well, why? Because they have all of the great resources from a hospitality point of view to deliver that experience, so people go home energized, productive, and you accomplish some things.
Exactly. It's all coming back to full stack hospitality in a way. If you look at what happens in a building today, kind of a multi-tenant building, given, in any city, a lot of the time you get into kind of an entrance hall with a high loft, high ceilings, and maybe if you're lucky, there is a logo on the wall, maybe a sofa, and behind a glass wall, you have a couple of security guards, and they may say hello to you. That's pretty common experience when you get into a multi-tenant building, right? So what I am doing and what we are doing is completely rethink these areas, because what you can do is to open these areas up in your multi-tenant building, for example, create an experience through a great dining experience. It could be breakfast, it could be lunch, dinner, it could be the Swedish fika again. We can combine it with podcast studios or pods for meetings where pretty much anyone can go in. You can combine that with a community host that really creates a vibe in that space day by day. You can launch hybrid town hall meetings, which are seamless from a food and beverage perspective, with the audio video just working without hassle. That type of experience is something that any company really wants to have as part of a lease. And that's also why I think the dialogues I have with real estate executives right now is just completely new type of dialogue, where we, as an outsourcing provider of workplace services, food and FM, we can start working directly with the real estate owners, unlocking that value for the tenants in that building, because they would share that space, they would share that vibe.
Right.
No longer does all of the companies create their own vibe, because they can take part of something bigger. And I think that is part of this full stack hospitality movement that I see. It's a great thing.
I love that, because shared services is the thing that's transformed tech in a huge way, right? In terms of cloud, what is cloud? It's a shared computer, it's shared infrastructure. Pay by the drink, pay for what you use. Don't have a big piece of investment in an asset that you don't use all the time. So are you seeing more and more then, kind of this suite of shared services within a facility that can be used by different tenants for whatever, for different times when they have different demand? Is that an increasing way to solve kind of the flexibility challenge?
Yeah, exactly. So not everyone sits in a multi-tenant building, but a lot of companies and people do. A lot of companies over the last years, they've been right-sizing or actually shrinking their space because of hybrid work. They have too much space. They may have utilization circling around maybe 30%. So they can easily get rid of, let's say, 30, 40% without having too small space. But what happens then is that they also want to have access to the larger hybrid town hall meeting spaces, or more, I would say, medium large meeting spaces. And they also want a restaurant, because maybe they can't have that in that smaller right-sized office anymore. So they want to share that. So in a way, it's more sustainable as well, because you use that building for more companies, and you use that space, to a higher utilization, which is good for the environment too, right? And it's good for the value and the valuation of the actual building for the real estate owner. I think this is a movement that we will see more and more, because nobody wants to come into an empty space,
right,
where are maybe mandated to work from the office.
Nothing is more deflating than an empty, quiet.
Yeah, we've all felt that, I think, most of us at least. And I think a lot of companies still struggle with making hybrid work work because of space that is not designed to their new way of working.
Right. So I just had an interview with Charles Corley from M. Moser and Associates from Singapore, and he said one of their things they push people to do is even have a dedicated person focused on making sure that the community spaces have things going on all the time, to actually make the investment so that it's not just kind of a nice space that no one really uses or utilizes, but actually have somebody focused on that from kind of a community building point of view, so that not only are there a lot of things, but there's a variety of things. There's yoga, there's lunch and learns, there's all these different things that create an environment and create an opportunity for people, again, to do things and to come there, honey instead of vinegar, because they can do things and get experiences that they can't get anyplace else.
But it's not only that. It's also being seen, being remembered, feeling a connection to a human, right? Because that's not something that we have abundance of in daily work life anymore. So just to give an example, I can't really name any names here, but I can explain what I'm seeing is that in probably the coolest workplace in Sweden right now, it's a brand new office. It's a collective of consultancies, creative companies, tech startups. They have a fantastic workplace, and they are investing in kind of a meet and greet person when you get there, but it's actually a security guard. But that person knows your name. He says, "Hello, welcome, how are you today?" Then you can walk your way into that workspace. The first thing that happens is a young lady, and she is a combination of a barista and a receptionist. We call it a BarCeptionist. And she also remembers names, remembers what kind of coffee you want and everything, and really creates this vibe without managing maybe those things like yoga sessions, but really playing that role of the heart of the workplace. So whenever you ask people what's the best with that coolest workplace that is, outfitted in really cool ways and has every thinkable great thing in that space, the feedback is always that lady who runs the barista and the reception. That's what people remember and love because they feel a connection. They feel seen. I think that's a sign of the times, Jeff.
They feel seen. I love that. It's funny. It comes back to people, right? We're not that complicated. We're people, and we like other people. When you see kind of really futuristic cities or really futuristic buildings, and a lot of times these kind of really futuristic renderings, they don't have any people in them. Like, where's the people? It's people that makes it.
Yeah, buildings are boring. People are more fun.
Yes.
When done right.
Shifting gears a little bit in terms of the role of data and kind of the technical challenges and what you have to overcome. I mean, I think probably one of the hardest things, not maybe one of the hardest things, for people running a facility is planning food when they're not sure how many people are going to come in and out, and what a huge contrast to pre-COVID when you pretty much knew. So I'm just curious in kind of the role of data, the role of forecasting, kind of upping the game in terms of the increased dynamicism of the marketplace and activity. Yeah. How are your clients using technology and new ways to better manage a much more dynamic and shifting, I don't know, unpredictable. Maybe they have the right tools that can predict it. How do you manage food in 2025?
Yeah, you're onto something really complex here, Jeff. I appreciate the question, but I think I need to back the tape a bit for the listeners to follow on this. If you are a huge player in outsourcing, generally the business builds on responding to requests for partnerships, for example, where you're asked to provide a lot of services on a service level agreement, maybe in 15, 20, 30 countries. Easily it becomes quite a big contract volume because you also employ maybe 500 people in your own organization that suddenly takes care of a lot of business for that client, connected to, for example, food, cleaning, building maintenance, whatever it can be. So I think we need to understand that first. And in 2014, for example, I was part of, or actually led the negotiation between Sodexo and one of the largest life science companies in this world. So I was a consultant at Ernst & Young at that time, but everything is about to understand kind of what's the volume per service and what's going to cost in those 30 countries, and really negotiate that and negotiate the contract claims. It was easy by then, right? Because the business was similar: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And nowadays it's much more complex, because you really have to understand the people flow into buildings. So people flow in Hungary, are they the same as in Spain or in Finland, Sweden, in the US? You can't really guess on that, because if you guess wrong, either you come in too cheap or you come in too expensive, and it will never win. So what you really need to understand is how many people are in a building if you're going to serve food. How many people will be in this building in 3 weeks on the Monday between 11:30 and 1 o'clock, for example? How many will be in 2 days later, Wednesday, for example? So if you don't know that, you'll have a problem from a supply chain perspective of ordering ingredients, making sure that you don't produce too much waste. All of these things has become much more complex. And this is also why everything needs to become digitalized.
Right.
So it's a good question.
And are the systems catching up? Are you seeing, is the sophistication of the modeling and things adjusting now? You've got a few years worth of data, so it's not quite as the shock as it was before. Although it's more complicated, right?
It's more complicated. It's catching up, but there is no blueprint, I would say, for this. Different clients and different companies, we do in certain ways. For example, take if you look at our office right sizing service that we've innovated over the last year here in Sweden. It's a combination of a meeting booking platform, co-working space usage, and sensors coming from the cleaning service that we do, kind of cross-referencing that. Then we can really understand exactly how the building is utilized. And from that type of information, we can also understand, are we overstaffed on Mondays or Fridays? Because everyone knows that we usually had a Wednesday mountain, but today is actually the Tuesday mountain. Tuesdays are bigger than Wednesdays, because we know the movement of people in buildings suddenly. So we are catching up from a digitalization perspective in that sense, but also, of course, in the platform of running restaurants. That's also something that has to be more and more digitalized to keep up the speed.
You have been doing this, I think you said you've been in this for like 20 plus years. Congratulations.
Yeah, 21 years.
21. But what you haven't been doing for 21 years is playing with AI. And I knew I would have you on eventually, but why I had to reach out to you the other day, and I'm just going to pull up the post because I think it's pretty wild. You put out a post and you talked about, and I joked, I call him your chief of staff, your cabinet, your dirty dozen. I don't know what you call your little worker bees. But this was a fascinating. So you said that I've got this great effective team, and I'm just going to read it real quick because I think it's pretty insightful. You've got ChatGPT as your Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer, Claude as your Executive Editor in Residence, Perplexity as VP Research and Insight, Gemini as your Director of Real-Time Verification, Midjourney, Creative Director of Visual Production, Canva, Head of Rapid Design and Branding, 11 Labs, Senior Manager of Voice Experience, Notebook LM, Chief Knowledge Curator, Gamma AI, Director of Presentation, Otter AI, Chief Meeting Historian, Ambient AI, Chief Workflow Orchestrator, and Veed, the Director of Video Content. I about fell off my chair when you dropped this. And what's interesting is you couched it in that you were actually talking to a group of executives and asking them about their AI engagement. Yeah. And it reminds me, too, of a time I had an interview with Bill Schmarzo. He had just moved to Iowa and went to some Iowa development thing. And they asked people, how AI is going to impact their worlds, and nobody raised their hand. It was in the lower quadrant. So clearly they weren't kind of clued into what's going on. So many questions. First off, this is amazing. Thank you for sharing and helping people. I think I think we're at a stage in this adoption where people really need models that they can look to, other people to basically pattern their behavior after if they're not naturally curious. But, you know, some basic things. How do you keep up with this stuff? Do you have an AI buddy that helps you, you know, kind of evaluate new applications? You can't hardly keep up with it because there's new things being introduced all the time. So share a little bit generally, and then I want to go into some of the specifics about how you're using some of these tools to really change your own workflow and your own productivity.
Yeah, it's fascinating, Jeff. The journey that I've been on over the last year is just something else. I feel today that I'm 3xing myself, or 3 to 4xing myself in many dimensions. And it's all part, actually, I think that's worth mentioning first, personal journey. I do pay for these things on my own. I need to say that first. Some 5 years ago, when the pandemic started, you know, I went through a divorce. My grandmother died, my cousin died, my father died. I had two small kids. I used to travel a lot over the world, managing 16 countries. It was a big hassle, actually. And before that, I was a management consultant traveling the world to work. So from maybe 2018, I've been on a personal journey to be more healthy, spend more time on stuff that I love, less on shit, you know, and really become a new version of myself. And that's what I felt last spring, that this train was about to leave the station, train of AI. I need to figure this out because AI is one of the two strongest legs in the future work. Like it's AI and distributed work, and those together kind of will dictate how companies' operating models are built going forward, and everything connected to that. So, you know, I can't be in the role of future work not knowing and really using AI on a daily basis. So that's kind of the platform for where I am today. So I joined Dan van Rossum. Have you met Dan anytime?
I don't think so.
He's a fantastic guy. He's known in global media magazines, and he runs his FlexOS company, who is a media platform today, but they also do AI training for executives. So I jumped on that course, and that's kind of a from noob to master course in 28 days, where you do self-studies most of the time, but you also have meetings with Dan. And the whole point of that is to go in kind of naked, and then you end that course with your own AI team. So that's responding to one of your questions on, do you have an AI body? How do you keep up? Because the ingenuity with what Dan does is that he also provides a community that's for free on a lifetime basis. So everyone who takes that course, who have their AI team, also kind of vibes every day. Did you see that thing on that AI? Ooh, Canva just dropped another version. Grammarly came with this. Copilot did this today. Did you see it? That thing is what is very helpful to keep up to date with what's happening. But to be honest, I always feel behind, although I know probably I'm a top 5% in the world user of this.
Share for people how important it is to have an AI person buddy, to bounce ideas off, to share these things, to learn about new things. Because I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle. You gotta have kind of somebody with you. It's so much easier to go on a journey with somebody versus by yourself, and expose blind spots and really help you discover new things.
Yeah. So just so we're super clear on this, you mean like having AI as a thinking partner?
No, I mean a person, like your little group, like your little group that you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the way to do it. I've understood that now from spending a year of really digging deep into AI. The power of AI is from the individual perspective. People getting curious, sharing experiences as a social movement. That is what's going to really bring powerful transformation in companies. You can't really set a AI strategy for a company and let's automate that process and give an AI to people figure this out. It's never going to happen because really need to bring this power from inside out, kind of, if you will.
Right.
When you get that social movement going, then AI is a fantastic thing because then the skepticism disappears. You try new things and be excited when the new functionality drops, and kind of a bit of a FOMO situation as well. Like my buddy's been using that new version of ChatGPT 4.5 now. I haven't even tried it. I need to do it. That kind of feeling is fantastic. So having a buddy is absolutely key, I would say,
Right.
to create this social movement.
And it's great that you were confused by my question, because Charles also, who's also way down the AI path, talks about using AI as his thought buddy, as really a thought partner. And the other framing that he used, which I thought was really powerful, is think of it as a junior colleague, a smart junior colleague, but a junior colleague that still needs to have their work checked now and then before you make some kind of big commitments. And I thought that framing was so good. I wonder if you can share some of the specific little tasks that have been transformed for you in kind of your daily existence by using some of these tools.
I think we need to go by example, actually, because I do use it so much in all of these different tools or AI or tech day by day now. So, if I say, oh, I use all of the tools every day, nobody understands what it means. So exactly. Let's put it like this then. I got asked last autumn, sometime in November, to present at a conference on the future of work from IFMA. Can you please kind of come here, talk about how distributed work and AI is developing? So I was like, yeah, of course I can do that. Ex-consultant, right? How do you do your presentation? How do you go about it? You start, sit down, you do your straw man on a PowerPoint, you start putting in headlines. Maybe you find some presentations that you've been using before and you try to order them and you don't really get there. You start writing bullet points on the slides and it takes forever to create such a, powerful presentation that you're really satisfied with. It could easily take a week, if you do it in part-time. That's how I did it, at least as a management consultant for many years. But nowadays, to give that example, is that I download the relevant reports that I have. Think kind of the Gensler report, McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, whatever, that is up to date and quite new into Notebook LM, for example. So Notebook LM is a Google product where it kind of summarizes, let's say, 3,000 PDF pages and a couple of podcasts in a few minutes. And I get that brief document on exactly what these are about. Suddenly, I have a pretty good source for information where the world of work is going. Take that and I lift it in maybe to ChatGPT. This time I would not probably choose the O3 model because it digs so deep. If I'm going to do a presentation, it's good enough with 4.5 or 4.0. And I ask it to help me create that presentation. And it really digs deep on all of that data that I found in those reports. And I kind of download maybe earlier presentations as well that I've been doing. And I ask it to prepare for a PowerPoint. Please do it on a 15-page PowerPoint, and it should take around 20 minutes to present. Then it does that in a couple of seconds. And just because ChatGPT is not that good with words, I may take it to Claude. Because Claude is much better with language. Can instruct what kind of tone I want the presentation to have. Should we sound like the Monocle magazine, or should we sound like the Financial Times or Bloomberg, or should we use Henrik's voice and tone? We couldn't choose that. And then when we've done that, it's important to just bring it into Gamma, for example, the PowerPoint producer. So lift that prepared content on 15 pages with that specific content into Gamma, ask it to preserve what I'm going to present or the content that I've been developing, hit generate when you've kind of decided the color scheme and the fonts. Then in 1 minute or so, I have that 15-minute presentation done and ready. So having done that maybe took around, let's say, 30 minutes of work, everything. We are at draft level, 80% done and good, because the pictures may be AI generated. I want to ship them out with real pictures, probably.
Right.
Maybe add a few corporate logos because I don't want to use that in these things. I want to be mindful and ethical about the AI I'm using. And here's the cool stuff, Jeff. We come down from maybe a week of work to maybe an hour to come to 80% of the presentation.
Right.
Go back, if you remember, the first step I did here was the notebook Ellen thing. If you have tried that, you can also pick Studio, the audio file presentation of that, of those 3,000 pages of reports. And you get a 17-minute sound file where you have two podcast hosts talking about most important things. What you can do then is that you save that sound file and you bring that into your video production AI tool and say, can you build me a video from that soundbite they're talking about, from what they are talking about? And then it does that. So suddenly you sit there with an intro video of, let's say, a minute or so, with that audio sound file narrating the video that the AI has developed based on the data that I provided Notebook LM. So in 2 hours, maybe, you have an intro video of your presentation, you have the presentation content, PowerPoint, and the outro video done. That's pretty much the process, because you learn how to kind of work in a different way. And I really like what you said. It's like being a partner at McKinsey, right? You have that hat on, and you have these fantastic people around you that are really upbeat and really want to do a good job, and they over deliver all the time. You give them tasks, and you're always in the loop as a human, but you save so much time. You get so much deeper into detail, much more creative, and different thoughts that I've never thought about myself, of course.
Right, right. That is a great example. I mean, it's so funny because when you do start making a stupid PowerPoint, and thankfully I try not to make them at all anymore if I can avoid it, but you always get stuck in the colors and the fonts and, the simple things that ChatGPT or these tools are so good at, that you just said, like make it 15 pages in 20 minutes. That is like the hardest thing to do as an author of your own stuff. At least for me, I always have 10x what I need. And so when even just to have an assistant to take your garbage and condense it and clean it up and give me something nice and clean is a huge value. I love that. I love that example.
And even more, Jeff. So as you learn, I'm a quite open, transparent guy. I am completely okay with saying that I have challenges with procrastinations, because
just you're the only one, Henrik, in the whole world that has problems with procrastination.
I admit it.
I think you have a few compadres out there that you could shuttle with.
Yeah, this is the more complex questions that you have to deal with in your everyday work. Probably the more procrastination you have as a human, because you really need to progress. You really need to find the dots, the patterns in this complexity to turn it into something simple. This is probably top 2, at least, on what I feel the power of AI is on the individual level. I never get stuck anymore, because I can easily just pick up the phone and start talking to my thinking buddy, ChatGPT, for example, in advanced voice mode, and say, this challenge we have with employee engagement in that area, I don't know what to do with it. Can we just talk about it for a while? And maybe I do that on my way to work or from work. And suddenly, the aha moment comes immediately, because it helps you slice the elephant in a way that you never get stuck if you use it in the right way. So I think that's the thinking body in the AI, which is the most powerful thing.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So just to steal another great line from Brian Elliott, which I think is really impactful, his focus has always been on the future of work and distributed work, and he was at Slack and Future Forum and all these things, but he made a really impactful statement that the same management attributes that make a manager and a team successful moving to distributed work are the same things that will enable that same manager to basically help his team be successful in AI, because it's about experimentation and empowerment and trial and error and support and, not being afraid to make mistakes a couple here and there along the way. So I think it's a really interesting kind of progression. As you said, distributed work is the thing going forward, distributed teams, really more importantly. The work's always been distributed. But now within this AI overlay, it happens to be it's the same management skills. It's about risk taking and empowerment and trial and error and encouraging people to embrace these new things.
Yeah, and really enthuse people to do it. Can you make your job more fun? Can it suck less? Can you get more creative? Can you be faster? Can you end earlier on Friday? Try to make it happen. If you can lead like that, I think that's the right way to do it. And funny you mentioned Brian, because Brian is in the same AI community that I am in. And actually today and yesterday, I was talking to Dave Cairns. You know Dave pretty well, because he has been following my journey with AI as well for a while. And I kind of been telling him, you need to get into this. And today I get these messages from Dave saying, wow, this is the wildest thing for the creative process. You can utilize AI to really think deeper, challenge your own thinking, find your own blind spots, get deeper, because you can talk to that tech forever on any topic, and it will bring down the most ingenious things if you know how to use it.
Right.
So again, proof of the social movement, creating curiosity and really sharing how you do stuff. I think that's the zeitgeist as well.
And I want to double down on something you said. Charles said most people who are having some success on this journey, in terms of the conversational interface and the fact that just start asking it questions. I think there's we're seeing on the post where these people put out these huge poster things with 6-point font on prompt engineering, and it's I don't even know how many words and lines and sections. You can't even read the stupid thing, which is so the wrong approach, and probably intimidates the hell out of people because they're trying to engineer the perfect prompt. But that's not how it works at all.
No, it isn't. It's more like having a conversation, knowing how to be clear when you talk. How to kind of program the tech early on in a new chat. Take the role as my world-class economical analyst on the food supply chain, because I really want to know what the bottlenecks in Poland are. How do I procure meat? That's the type of discussions you can run into and really spend hours on. And the thing is, Jeff, that it's not the big thing is not comparing it, for example, how to search for information on the internet. But the thing is that you think when you write, you think when you talk to this AI. And just a year ago, I did not think when I wrote or think when I spoke to an AI. But today, I may be spending 1 hour, maybe spending 2 hours of writing or talking to that AI, meaning that I'm thinking 2 hours more per day. This is also part of it, right? It's the big thing. To spend more time thinking, yes, you will be probably better off with whatever you're doing.
I love that. So we're getting towards the end of our time. 2025. You've been in workspace for 20 plus years. You've been in this role for the better part of a year. As you look forward, what are some of your priorities? What are you excited about? Are we making the right moves? Are you seeing the right stuff in the marketplace? Or what is still some of your frustrations? What's kind of your plan for 2025? What's your priorities?
Yes, I think it's difficult to sound smart, right, in these times when on that question, because there's so many things
So I
happening
didn't
in the
say 3 to
world.
5 years. I would never do that to you.
Even though with kind of the macroeconomic climate and everything, but I'm really excited about exactly those two societal shifts of distributed work and AI. You know, we have never seen companies doing so much with fewer resources. At the same time, they are laying off people, right? And that's a sad story. And AI is really coming in now, really changing the game. Many companies are trying to figure out the next generation operating model. This is what I'm thinking is the most interesting topic for me. How do we create and design corporate bodies? How will they work? How will you govern this mechanism when people have maybe 20, 30 agents each? Every member of your 30 people strong CFO team have 30 agents. Every member of your marketing team may have 30 agents. Just imagine how fast things can be done, or how deep, or how many things we are able to accomplish. Can be scary, but also really fascinating to think about. So if you take my perspective as a former head of strategy for Europe, for example, usually we could spend a couple of months or 3 months a year to really figure out the strategic analysis. 16 countries, 100 services, calculating compound aggregated growth rate in every country on every service for 3 years ahead. Now, you know, you can do that within a week if you wanted to. But the thing is that most companies, they aren't there yet, but it's fascinating to see the speed of development on how you design these organizations and what you need, what kind of skills you need. And I think people should ask themselves exactly that question. What kind of skills do I need in my role going forward? Because if I do not invest in, for example, AI or creating this team, someone else will, and I will probably not be able to get that next really cool job.
Yeah. Feels like curiosity is moving up the list.
Curiosity.
In terms of skills and attributes.
What do you think, Jeff? If you had a kid today who was around 10 years old, and you were figuring out kind of what will that kid need when it enters the workforce in, let's say, 10 years from now?
Yeah,
it's difficult.
I think it is. It's curiosity, because we have no idea, right? You have to be open to change. It's curiosity and agility and resilience. It has zero to do with any actual tangible skill that you would learn from an apprenticeship. It's about those really more your attributes, your characteristics, to deal with the crazy change that is coming each and every day.
Yeah, exactly. And really being able to start on a fresh every time you run into a challenge. What kind of technology can I use to get towards this challenge and really solve it in a fast way? I've been playing around with the likes of Lovable, for example, because you know what Lovable is?
No.
It's another AI where you can create a homepage or kind of a business-ready platform within a couple of hours. So let's say you start with looking for how can I make a cheese delivery company in Washington? What do I need? What do I need? Different types of cheese. How will I kind of solve the full supply chain for it? And when you've done that within maybe half a day, you can put all of that content for that business plan, that strategy, that campaign into Lovable, and Lovable turns it into a homepage-ready business for you. So, you know, that type of creativity, or as you say, curiosity, will be golden for any professional going forward.
Yeah. Well, Henrik, we're We're at the end of our time, and I really appreciate. I love the fact that you are just pushing on edges, pushing on edges, pushing on edges. And you mentioned the word governance. We didn't get into that. We'll have to save that for next time. I think we're going to have to rely on our friends on that side of the Atlantic because based on our lack of success around any type of governance in social media, we still struggle on the privacy side. You guys came up with GDPR. We can't even get a national breach notification policy, and it doesn't make me feel very confident about what's going to happen on these technologies that are moving even faster. So we'll save the governance for another day, but certainly it's exciting, and people like you who are both embracing it, jumping in with both feet, but also sharing the journey so other people, like Dave even yesterday, can benefit, I think is really, really, really important and of huge benefit to a lot of people.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And it has been a real pleasure to be part of this fantastic podcast.
Thank you. I really appreciate you coming on, and have a great day. He's Henrik. I'm Jeff. You're watching Work 20XX. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on the podcast. We'll see you next time. Take care. Cool. That was great, man.
Yeah, it was good. Good flow. And you have that magic that most podcast hosts don't.
Oh, that's nice to say.
Take that with you, because it is still black magic for most people. Good podcasts don't grow on trees, as we say in Sweden.
Well, thank you very much.
Talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Hey, Jeff Frick here. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. I really appreciate your ongoing support as we celebrate Work 20XX episode 50 with Henrik, really talking about the future, that the future of work has evolved from talking about days of the week to talking about how do you build your own AI team behind you to help you 3X yourself, as Henrik said. But one of the questions he asked me, what advice would you give someone, say a 10-year-old, who's going to be entering the workforce in 10 years? What do you think it's going to be a skill? And we talked about some really attributes, but I said, incorrectly probably, well, definitely, that there's no skill that you could learn in an apprenticeship that would protect you from this onslaught. And the more I think about it, and I've actually seen some quotes where people say, be a plumber. It's going to be a long time before the robots, and I've done a lot of work in robots, are in people's homes repairing clogged toilets and doing complex remodels and just all the things that plumbers do. So plumbers, electricians, those are probably going to become more and more valuable as maybe they're one of the latter ones to get automated. We'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. But again, thank you for listening. If you got this far, I really appreciate it. Take care. Share with a friend. Like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell. Leave a review. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.